Hi, my name is Maddie Bartlett. Russia is my country of choice, so for this presentation, I'll be going over business mentality, and that's going to touch down on your business meals, your phone calls, your business meetings within the office, and your home visits. From there, it's going to go into your greeting style, and that's going to be who to address, how to address them, when to address them, that kind of stuff. Also involved will be the art of conversation. That's going to highlight things you want to avoid and things you don't want to avoid, and also your body language, which is going to be very important in this culture because that's going to show your respect and that's going to be how you earn your respect. Also, I'll be helping you succeed as an individual within the business world here. That's going to go over your power distance, and that's basically going to help you find your role within the culture. And from there, I'm going to go into individualism and context because this is a very close-knit culture with high context. Also, you're going to want to know some conversation styles that are not so formal to help you blend in a little more. Some fun facts about Russia is the official name is the Russian Federation, but Russia for short, obviously. It's the largest country in the world because of its land size, and it covers 9 different time zones. It also shares several borders with places like China, Norway, Ukraine, and North Korea. Moscow is the capital of Russia, and that's going to be the largest city. Also, I'm actually wearing red because this is a very prominent color within the culture, and it's because it's so powerful. The currency in Russia is going to be the Russian ruble, also known as the rub. $1 in the US is going to equal 65 rubs. So, some fun phrases to know is going to be things like hello, and that's going to be privet. Money is going to be dingy. Goodbye is going to be proche. And to call is going to be vrasv. I hope you enjoy my presentation.
When it comes to business mentality in a Russian culture, there's going to be a few key ideas you want to know. So it's basically broken up into 2 different categories. There's going to be the new style entrepreneurship, and then there's going to be the old school bureaucrat. Going from there, it's really hard to do business without any local connections. That local connection basically gives you the one up. Like if there's a tough decision between 2 great candidates, if one has a local connection and one doesn't, the one with the local connection is definitely going to pull ahead. Another thing to remember is to avoid confrontation at all costs, and that means hard selling techniques because that's kind of putting them on the spot, and they really don't like that. They like to think about what was being said, what was being sold to them, and kind of have a little privacy to think about what their decision is going to be. And like leading in from there is going to be a famous saying in Russia. It's don't hurry to reply, but hurry to listen. And this kind of is important because I don't know if you knew, but decisions are deliberated in a private setting, not in front of a bunch of people. And they kind of just like to keep to themselves mainly when it comes to the business actions like that. They don't like putting people on the spot or being put on the spot. Greetings in Russia is actually short and to the point. It's very important to have a firm handshake and to keep direct eye contact when arriving and leaving. It's also very rude and disrespectful when shaking hands with gloves on. They do not like that. Another important thing to remember is you never address someone by their first name unless you're invited to do so. You usually just go by their last names. The art of conversation is pretty important. It's actually very basic too, mainly common sense. Something to remember is they do like it when you take an interest in their language. They like to know that you're trying to study, you took time to learn, just shows that you're dedicated. They're also pretty soft-spoken when out in public, and that's pretty contradicting from movies or stories you hear that take place in Russia. Some things to talk about are children. They like to hear about your children, their children, all good things, of course. Another thing you can talk about would be Russian history and Russian culture. They like to know that you have some knowledge behind where they come from. Also, they like to talk about the changes in Russia and how it's a developing country, but don't get that confused because they do not like it when you compare Russia to other developing countries. That's pretty rude to them. Also, something you want to avoid would be talking about monarchy or the Holocaust. That's also sore subjects to them. They don't like to hear about your complaints about Russia, and they don't like hearing about the conflict with ethnic minorities. Those are all things they are frowned upon and will most likely not want to continue doing business with you. So when it comes to meetings and meals, there's a few things that you want to remember. So dressing formal is very important. You want to look conservative, and by that I mean men in suits, women's in blazers and skirts, that kind of thing. Another important thing is you want to either be early or on time, but you cannot expect this from your counterpart because they're usually testing you to see how reliable of a business partner you can be. Another important thing for promotion would be handing out business cards, and that's with English on one side and Russian on the other side. And then when it comes to actual meals, the host always sets the pace, and so that means eating, getting up, that kind of thing. You definitely don't want to take charge or initial first move. Um, when visiting family homes, you want to bring small gifts as a sign of respect. And when it comes to drinking and toasting, this is very important. When you're invited to go out to drinks, you should go because this kind of helps you get to know your business partners and definitely leads to more trust. Language is going to be a really important thing when having meetings or meeting someone for the first time. So, some important things you want to remember is eye contact. You always want to be making eye contact. You never want to show the bottom of your shoes because that's a sign of dirty and disrespect. It's also rude to stand with your hands in your pockets or to sit with your legs open or your ankle on your knee. You want to sit knee to knee or legs together. It's also very insulting when using your forefinger. These are just some things that you want to remember when getting ready to meet someone for the first time, trying to make business deals, or in being involved in any kind of business meeting. Our distance is pretty important. It's basically just like any other movie. There's going to be your three classes. There's going to be lower class, middle class, high class. This kind of means that not everybody is equal, and usually the powerful people lead the status, meaning they're going to be the high class, and then everybody else just kind of falls below them. The power leads are also pretty distant in society, meaning like their business is kept personal, and they don't just kind of air out their dirty laundry. Individualism is short and to the point. They're a collectivist society, meaning they belong in groups, and this kind of shows the loyalty for one another. So the art of conversation and communicating style is going to be a little different. Communicating style is going to actually be how are people in Russia going to communicate with me. And so a few things to know is younger entrepreneurs are pretty normal for knowing more languages than just Russian and English. They're going to know other European languages, but it's also not unusual for them to not know other languages. Like they could just know Russian, they could just know English, and that'd be totally fine. Some remote areas in Russia actually use Cyrillic script for their signs, so that would be something important to know before going to do business or visiting. They like to not speak and listen with their body language, if that makes sense. They like to take it all in, and they usually show very little body language just so you don't like misinterpret anything. You don't jump to conclusions like saying, I got the big deal when really you didn't get it. And so you never really want to just assume their body language. You definitely want to listen when they tell you what they're meaning. Russian context is actually going to be pretty similar to individualism. Back in individualism, we talked about how they're a close knit group. They like to stay in groups for loyalty. Also, something important is they're a high context culture that runs off of three different dimensions. They're going to run off your behaviors, your attitudes, and your cognitions. They're very aware of nonverbal reactions, and that's going to be your facial expressions and your body language. You definitely don't want to give the wrong impression by having an overexpressed face or a nasty look. They're also very aware of their traditions and their history, And basically having a little knowledge of this is going to earn you a lot of respect in the long run. They're also big on relationships, so that's meaning you don't want to step on toes of people who have powerful connections because that'll definitely end you right there. Leaving you off, I'm going to say everything matters, and this is really important with Russian culture because truly everything does, from the way you look, the way you present yourself, the things you know about their culture, your body language, the way you communicate with them is all going to be important when helping you succeed in the business world of Russia.